On the 11th, 12th, and 13th of July 2008, the fourth edition of the Le Mans Classic took place. Drivers from 30 countries on 5 continents traveled to pay their respect to the memory of the 24 hours of Le Mans at this major competition event for vintage racing cars. 396 cars were divided among 6 grids, covering the whole history of Le Mans. For the 90,000 spectators, this was a real opportunity to take a close look at the very rare cars that forged the legend of this mythical race. The technical verifications started on Thursday.
Non, ça c'est le corps de l'allumeur. Du temps. Alors là, ce qu'il me faut tout de même, c'est... Alors voilà, ça...
The excitement and buzz about the cars is held back neither by the safety or the conformity inspections.
Pour, en course, en circuit, avoir un système de blocage.
The same warm atmosphere is found at the administrative verification point, where the regulars and all 1,000 drivers come to register in order to confront the 13-kilometer-long track on which they will perform over the whole weekend. This year, we followed 3 teams that will give us a taste of the unique atmosphere of this event. The first of them is from Germany.
Hello, welcome to our team Scuderia Carolus Magnus from Germany, especially from Aix-la-Chapelle. This is our motorhome, and this is someone who is preparing his teas for the race.
But when you sit in a car and you drive the first lap, then you'll be there where you want to be, and that's fine.
Dieter Horbach and Heinz Vogel drove a 1953 Porsche 356, entered on grid number 2, which is dedicated to the 1949 to 1956 period. Another team is here from Japan. An amazing 1926 Type 35 Bugatti is one of the 3 cars they have entered, along with a 1957 Alfa Romeo SV Zagato, with which the drivers Tadakazu Kojima and Masahiro Fujino have a few problems. But those can't take away from the good time they're here to have. They're truly living a dream since they arrived from Tokyo only yesterday. Unfortunately, the Alfa's gearbox is not made for such a track. The technicians from Ivan Mae's team are trying to come up with a solution. We're trying to find a tube in order for them to take apart the gearbox. We're trying to help because when you come all the way from Japan, it's not to sit on the side of the track and watch the others race. Ivan has prepared several cars for this Le Mans Classic event. He is the driver of 2 of them. We've prepared 12 cars for this Le Mans Classic event. We have a workshop that handles from 35 to 40 cars. All our clients wanted to be part of this because it is the biggest event of the year, even for us. It means a lot to be here. 12 cars that are among the best ones. Most of them are recent and are driven mainly by well-known drivers.
In the past, I drove Formula 1, IndyCar, Champ Car, and everything. Le Mans, 24 hours also. So these old cars, for me, it was the first time last year with Richard. It was fantastic, incredible.
It's true that it has a 5-liter engine and it runs well, but it's all the rest, brakes, steering, suspension that can't keep up. Around his cars, Ivan is everywhere. He gives advice, he checks settings, and he is the one who is called when a very rare collector's piece is started.
T'as le booster de branché?
Oui, c'est
bon. Bah tu mets un coup de démarreur. Vas-y.
Merci, grand. Merci.
C'est mythique. Tac.
Donc ça c'est le team Maël.
Mais il y a l'autre encore.
Oui, là, oui.
Plateau 6. C'est un métier.
C'est devenu, je pense, la plus belle
It has become the most beautiful event in the world,
Et
and it's such a
c'est
pleasure
très
to be its
agréable
major
d'être le sponsor
sponsor.
principal de cette manifestation. Donc, je me sens très
I believe it to be a privilege to be
d'avoir
one of
fait
the
partie
pioneers of the organization.
de cette organisation.
The public success of the event is mainly due to what surrounds the racetrack. The cars can be seen and the drivers can be talked to during the whole weekend. The atmosphere is pleasant, and if the race gets you dizzy, you can go for a walk in the village where shopkeepers, either specialized in racing cars or not, welcome you. There are also a few surprises, like this hairdresser from Lemans who has set up at the entrance to the track. It's great. People are very nice, and we also cut hair for many foreigners. I found this very interesting. People are nostalgic with smiles on their faces. They're very happy with all of this. What are all these amazing machines? They're vehicles with amazing shapes from the 50s. They're uncommon cars and scooters with small engines. They're also popular vehicles for those who know only Vespa and Lambretta, as well as more exotic, more unusual ones. Are they easy to drive? It's truly interesting because people can do stunts with them, which is really fun. Are foreigners fond of these types of photos? Very much so, especially our British friends, because of the numerous British cars in our collection. As for history, we've got posters, badges, programs, and some odd items such as driver's pins. But the show does not end there. Owners' clubs for collectors' vehicles are represented. They came this year with no fewer than 6,000 cars, a true living museum where celebrities can be met and curiosities can be seen. Because of its history, the Lemans airfield, which faces the track, was celebrating the centenary of the first flight of the Wright brothers plane above Gendebien back in 1908. A replica of the plane, built by the owners of the airfield, was exposed, and a few landings could be watched throughout the weekend. impressive. Buzz Aldrin himself was present on the track, the second man to walk on the moon, a few seconds after Neil Armstrong turns out to be an automobile fan.
I think you love mechanics. And then, do you love the cars you have seen there?
I drive as fast as the gendarme allow.
Not more?
Sometimes. But I was in a race in Long Beach, California, the Toyota Grand Prix celebrity race.
When?
5 years ago.
And you drove?
4 years. Yes.
How was it? Did you like?
Oh, it was very educational. How to turn the corners and sweep wide, and to shift down and up.
On Saturday at 4 p.m., everything is set. Pits and stands are full to see Daniel Poissonneau and Buzz Aldrin on the track to give the start to the pre-war cars of the first grid. The Le Mans style start is given only to the first 3 grids, which commemorates the time when the race was started this way. Each race lasts 45 minutes, and at least one change of driver has to occur. Each grid will race 3 times during the weekend in order to enjoy all possible configurations, like evening, night, and mornings. 18 races will therefore take place in 2 days. Here, the struggle to the finish line is between Talbots, Lagondas, and Bugattis, amongst others. For everyone, and especially those who traveled a long way to be here, it was worth it.
You missed here. Yeah. I'm very happy to finish this race. Yeah, I enjoyed very much in France. Yeah. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you very much.
Other than the possibility to go back in time, this event also allows us to rediscover unusual and unique cars like this very rare helmet seen on the track.
La voiture, je dirais, ça a d'abord été un coup de foudre. Quand j'ai vu cette voiture, je l'ai trouvée tout d'abord
This
magnifique.
car was love at first sight.
Et donc l'idée a été
I thought it was beautiful.
de la faire revenir des États-Unis.
Just to know it was powered by a turbine and not by a flat 6-cylinder engine.
Cylindre à plat ou un 12 cylindres, mais par une turbine.
But what was even more exciting was to rebuild and resuscitate a car that had just been an attempt.
Notre père, étant ingénieur, nous a très largement
It was our
baigné
father
dans
who, as an engineer, brought us into this world of technology that was so attractive to
certain
us.
attrait pour la technologie. Et en même temps,
At the
c'était,
time, there was not just
faire
one
revivre
vision
une
of the
voiture
world.
qui était à l'époque une tentative.
We were trying to go as fast as possible.
On cherchait à aller vite.
C'est compliqué avec une voiture comme ça? Le moteur un peu, ouais. C'est un peu délicat.
One of the biggest parts of the work was to adapt one of the particularities of the car that was not produced anymore, and that was to put Westgates on the turbine. Another one was to recover the information, to restore the car and to make it conform to current regulations. We therefore came up with a pretty competitive car. In a world which is very regulated, that world which we're living in today, I approached some big companies, but they were not willing to work on the project. In this case, we had to drill holes in the turbine and to insert valves connected to the accelerator, just like at the time it was made. There are not a lot of people who are willing to drill holes in a helicopter turbine in order to make it work in a very different way than it was meant to work in a helicopter.
Our team is a group of friends. They have the same passion. All cars, car racing, going to rallies, international rallies, going to Italy, to France, to Spain, and drive with all cars. Motorsport.
To say quite close from the
I don't know exactly. We'll check that. I think it's the gasoline pump. They get no fuel. No, it's that it runs too fast. That we have no gasoline in the carburetor. It's almost empty. We filled up yesterday the tank, and now it's empty. I think that somebody took the gasoline out at night.
Fortunately, Dieter Horbach's team's problem will have no consequences. Even if the team was not able to start the race, the commissioners allowed them to compete in the second one. The dinner party at the Abbey of Épau, a few miles away from the track, is the occasion for everyone to have a good time away from the race. This is also an opportunity for the president of the region to gather some famous guests in an unforgettable surrounding. All the grids will have a night start. Many drivers are not comfortable with this situation because the car's lighting, which was not very reliable at this point in automobile history, must conform to the original. But nothing can dampen the driver's fervor, and watching a night race is still incredibly spectacular.
Very emotional, very mixed emotions, sometimes very high, sometimes very low, and sometimes I try and find out where I'm going.
This is my first time at the Le Mans Classic, my first time on the track with my car, and my first time at night. It was really impressive. It's something different, something I've dreamt about since I was a kid. It's amazing.
To go down the Mulsanne Straight in the middle of the night in a little car, absolutely fantastic. This car has a 1100cc engine, and it's the only place where I can get the car up to about 100 miles an hour, and it is the most fantastic feeling in the world.
And you didn't drive today?
No, I couldn't drive the first afternoon. The practice was actually closed as we refilled the tank, and now I try tonight to get some contact to the road.
During the races, life goes on at the village. Shops stay open late, and the atmosphere recalls the 24 hours of Le Mans. Drivers of the third grid, the second race takes place in the middle of the night. Dietelm can finally test drive his car. When he comes back, his partner can express satisfaction about being there.
Very well. The car is working, the engine is totally okay, the tires are okay, gearbox is okay, so I hope it keeps the whole weekend.
Qui est encore en panne, Jean-Pierre, j'ai encore la 37 qui est encore en panne. Il reste à 43 par contre elle n'a pas de lumière, donc tu vois pour la lumière, on n'a pas pu mettre la lumière.
Meanwhile, the marshals still have their eye on the race. The same dispositions are set up for the 24 hours as for the Le Mans Classic. This means that altogether, more than 1,000 marshals take part in order to ensure driver security throughout the weekend. The show just doesn't stop on the track, where we witness great struggles all night long. But as always at Le Mans, the night also brings its share of mechanical problems. At the time Alain Serpaggi is supposed to take over, he realizes his partner, Jean Todt, will not be bringing the A443 back to the pits. What a disappointment.
Les voitures qui étaient 1 et 2 au classement ne repasseront plus. La numéro 5 n'était pas repassée. Et la Renault est arrêtée.
For Team Renault, it's the end. Things are going well for the Japanese Alfa Romeo team. Despite the fact that they could not change the gearbox, the car handles the track pretty well. Every light is green for Guéna, Mahé, and Mille, the 660 Matras crew. After a challenging start for this night race, Ivan Mahé comes back pumped up from his relay. As well as being a driver, he's also responsible for the preparation of the car. The success of his clients' and friends' weekend is at stake.
Non!
Sometimes, as soon as he gets out of a car, he has to jump into another one. What kind of a life is that? Anyway, Ivan can cross his fingers. There have only been a few problems on the Nakano Beltoise and Arnoux Lola. Everything else is fine so far. Yesterday, at the end of the race, the finish at dawn was just amazing. Yeah, as I told you, the most beautiful race in the world to drive is this one. But only when the weather is nice. Another specific of Le Mans Classic is the presence of women, and not only on the side of the track, but also in the cars, even if most of them are here to observe.
I help the guys with whatever they need that I am able to do, and that usually means cleaning or pushing cars.
Richard is co-driver. He's my boyfriend, and so I'm supporting him, and I've come to Le Mans for the first time, but it's really cool. I think it's a man's trip, really, but there are some women here, and it's great to see the women driving. A couple of girls driving, very glamorous girls, and it's fantastic.
For one of them, Le Mans brings back many recollections, as her father won here 6 times. Generally, in the paddock area, the drivers are smiling, full of courtesy and charming. But on the track, we're like targets. My father always told me that there is no worse thing for a driver than being passed by a woman, which I noticed very often. Moving targets, all right, but also undoubtedly fast, as some of them come up with excellent performances. As a matter of fact, racing is for some of them a full-time activity, like for Corentin Quignou, who drives her car throughout the year. I drive this car all year long in the classic endurance racing for the Le Mans series. It's going all right for now. I lead the championship, but it's my first time at the Le Mans Classic with this car on the big track, and I look forward to it. Corentin teams with her father and Gérard Larousse. Others come from farther afield, but are as professional as she.
Is it interesting to drive, not too hard?
I've only had limited experience actually in this car. It's a 1968 Corvette, and it's a lot of fun to drive. It's just a lot more weight and a lot more power than what I'm used to, but it's still controllable.
Some are one-brand people like Jane Varley, who did not come all this way just for a lark.
I love Aston Martins. We have 4 Aston Martins, which we race. It's a lot of fun. Just fast enough, maybe. And it's just a beautiful car. Aston Martin's beautiful, it's pretty. Either 4th or 5th. I'm not sure yet. That's not bad. I believe we're the fastest Aston Martin. Okay. I hope. Fingers crossed.
On grid 2 are the immediate post-war cars like Maserati, Porsche, Jaguar, Lancia, and Triumph. It's going to go a bit faster. Everything seems to be fine for our German team. The car problems are fixed, and the drivers now enjoy the spectacular and hotly contested races. But a few seconds from the driver's change, something happens.
The car raced very fast, and it was a very good drive here through 3 laps. But then 100 meters before we have the driver's change, I heard a problem with the engine. It can be something with the exhaust system or with the plugs. I don't know exactly. So my colleague or my friend will try to do his best, but perhaps it will be the end of the story. We do not know.
Here starts the suspense for Dieter, who stays on the side of the track. The car keeps on going, but its pace is dropping. The other drivers take advantage and have no mercy. They did not come here to be understudies. Everyone fights for his place. It's finally the engine that breaks. Dieter learns over the phone that the car will not even reach the finish line.
Engine broken.
The weekend turns out to be disappointing for our friends, but they know that this is the way competition sometimes goes. Anyway, they promise they'll be back in 2 years to take part in the adventure again. Jaguar, Maserati, and again Jaguar. This is the podium for this grid. We see Adrian Kraft, who will manage to finish in second place. Here he is in action. It's clear that drivers start to compete earlier and earlier with karting, and they are younger and younger. I don't know if we can make world champions out of them, but it is still a good first contact with the competition. The creation this year of the Little Big Man Trophy is a great innovation. It is designed for the drivers' kids who want to compete behind the wheel of their own race cars. Great cars, motivated kids, they are undoubtedly the future.
T'accélères un petit peu.
Well, I drive a Ferrari. I like it. It's a Ford GT40. Is that your first Grand Prix? Yeah. It won't start, Dad. Either with excitement or intense concentration, the kids have at heart to do their best on the Bugatti circuit just before the opening of the adults race. Before the race, the rising pressure can be felt. The start will be given in the old-fashioned way. This is a dream for the 70 young drivers aged between 6 and 13.
On l'applaudit. Ferrari 330, P2. Ah oui, c'est important de préciser le P2 parce que ça change tout.
we plan to be easy on the car, but as soon as we have our helmets on, we forget all about the good resolutions. These 13 kilometers are amazing. We pass through the woods, and then there's the finish in this kind of stadium. It's wonderful. With Grid 3, things are getting more serious as the years 59 to 69 see the reign of the Lister Jaguar and the first Ferraris and Lotus. They all mean business, and we can feel the determination of the drivers on the starting line. It's confirmed during the race as the show is all down the field. It's this surprising little 93 Saab that will succeed. The Swedish team driving this loud little rocket beat all the big shots due to a particularly meticulous preparation, but also to a level of control that many cannot attain. Our Japanese friends are sincerely satisfied with their number 11 position. With a car not really adapted to the track, they have proved that they were here not just on vacation. Grid 4 is sponsored by ALD. It's great to put the automobile back in such a context, in contrast with what is heard in the media about costs and pollution. It's been a grail for many people, and there's still a lot of excitement in this area. You sponsor grid number 4. Why this one in particular? We chose this grid because all the great cars are here. Look at the LMs, the Bizzarinis, the Cobras, the TZs. The most beautiful cars are here. It is true that with this grid, we enter the universe of modern competition, where the driving skills are the most important, and where the speed can mean very unpleasant surprises. Fortunately, the last Tour Auto winner, Ludovic Caron, will not have to suffer from the consequences of his bad luck, as he will eventually finish 3rd in the time ranking. He did his best, but 2 American cars will still finish ahead of him. Just like at the time, the Ford GT40s are unbeatable. Meanwhile, in the paddock, life goes on for the drivers and the team bosses. It's not my son who's going to be buying me a car like that. That's a Cobra. They missed my birthday and Father's Day so far. Now they say they've got no money. Hey, I was hungry. You know, there are only 2 kinds of people who eat only ham sandwiches standing up. Classic racing car drivers and railroad company personnel.
Culturellement parlant, pour un pilote, c'est génial de...
It's a cultural advantage for a driver to assimilate with what was going on back in time, to see what the drivers had to race with back then. It's now completely different, and we've had to learn to drive all over again. I remember my uncle, he never stood on the brakes in a turn. Now we do just the opposite, and everything is like that when you have to drive these cars. As for me, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is like a reunion again. Because I haven't raced here since 1974, I can't wait to drive this track just one more time.
Jackie!
You know, we met on the auto tour with Despaillés. Le Mans is kind of mythical. At one point, I felt like I was Steve McQueen in the movie Le Mans. At another time, I was Michel Vaillant racing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And by the time I came back to my senses, I ended up in the sandbox. That's yet another reason why we love car racing. You know, as they say, there's nothing to win, but everything to break. Yeah, that's good. That's got it. The battery was turned off. Our Japanese team's 1000 Abarth cannot run any better. Anyway, it stands its ground in this race where the stars are the Matras, the Lolas, and the Chevrons. In this grid, the Matra will end up third in the time ranking behind the B16 Chevron of John Sheldon and the 512S Ferrari of Olivier Casalier. The Le Mans Heritage Club, another popular event in the village, presented a contest of cars that had raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The only condition for competition was that the car had to be in order. It was a unique occasion to see rare designs with true histories. Most of them do not belong to private individuals. A modern car that won Le Mans, which has therefore a true history, is better than an everyday car from the 20s. If it was not noticeable back then, why would it be different today? It's not because a car is old that it necessarily becomes desirable and a collector's item. It's mainly about quality. Well, it's you with your feminine sensitivity and me with my experience. That's how we're going to judge the beauty of this car. That's communication. What makes this car rare is its looks. That's why it has made history.
savoir si c'était une bonne voiture.
You want to know if it was a good car? I can tell you it was great.
Et en plus de ça, qu'est-ce qu'elle est belle.
Plus, it's gorgeous. It's still the same.
Elle n'a rien perdu.
And the aerodynamics are just amazing.
Finesse aérodynamique extraordinaire.
Mais aussi rendre un hommage à tous les artisans de l'événement.
With Porsche, I've learned that the most difficult thing to do is to make it simple.
Anniversaire de sa victoire. Il redit Josso avec Monsieur Josso au volant. Alors là, vous pouvez l'applaudir, Jean-Pierre Josso. Magnifiquement restauré et entretenu par Renault Historique et Collection.
And here is the prize-winning car. As part of the Renault patrimony, it was driven in its time by Didier Pironi and Jean-Pierre Josso, who is still a big fan of it, as you have just heard. Within the clubs, the competition was close this year, but the British were the best. One of the criteria for the attribution of the prize was the presentation, as well as the designs that were exposed. We were really impressed, especially by the British clubs. As an example, Singer did not have a lot of designs, 40 I think, but they were truly representative of a brand spirit.
Et sous vos applaudissements.
Voilà. It's the Lotus Club that eventually won, with the congratulations of the jury.
Bravo Henri, bravo Jean-Pierre.
Le Mans classique, la dernière course en programme de ce fabuleux week-end, un mois après le fabuleux 24 mondial.
Grid 6, we're getting really close to competition as we know it today. The drivers and the cars are again really sharp, and the races are hotly disputed. Ford France has registered 3 cars for the event, including this wonderful 2.6 RS Capri driven by Jean-Louis Schlesser that will finish in 17th place in the time ranking. On top of that, it is in this grid that the mythical 936 Porsche and the 512 BBLM Ferrari can be seen on the track. This year saw the victory of Jean-Marc Lucot and Jürgen Barth's 936 Porsche, the second place of Bert Skidmore and David Weger's T286 Lola, and the third place of the Quignou Larousse T280 Lola. On Sunday around 4 p.m., the weekend is coming to its end. As people are leaving the paddock, we again meet with Patrick, exhausted as expected, but also very happy about a particularly successful event that more than 80,000 people have witnessed. What should be told to spectators is that they have access to all the cars, all the paddocks, that all the drivers are totally available for them. Among them are numerous 24-hour Le Mans winners who are available all day long. And that's what excited me the most about this year. I believe car racing was like this in Europe until the mid-1970s. It's still that way in the US, where championships like NASCAR which is extremely popular and extremely professional, with lots of spectators and sponsors, remains the same openness between drivers and the public. I believe that here, people who are really into cars and want to get close to them, to talk to the drivers and to the mechanics, to know why a Type 14 carburetor was chosen over a Type 12, for instance. We lost that in modern events, and I think this is very important for the spectators. So if many of them come here, it's because they're given exactly what they want. We're going to keep this spirit of sports, the conviviality, the pleasure for everyone, and I think if we continue in this direction, well, our friends will be more and more numerous every year.
J'ai vraiment pris un grand pied. Avec la Matra, c'était exceptionnel. Quand on voit la qualité des voitures avec 512S à côté, voilà, les Lola, vraiment c'était fantastique, quoi. Ferrari, c'était fantastique. Les Porsche 917 devant, derrière et tout, c'était vraiment c'est un film, quoi. J'aurais jamais cru que, en fin de compte, j'aurais pu vivre ça un jour, quoi.